The Indians lived in this country long before your people ever came to America. He hunted animals when he needed something to eat, or when he needed skins and furs for clothing or ceremonies. Most of all, he hunted because he needed food to live. He did not hunt because he liked to chase and kill animals. Indians loved to dance and did many animal dances, using the antlers of the deer or buffalo horn headdresses, as well as the beautiful feather headdresses. He would sing songs about them. He would imitate their movements. He told many stories about them and painted pictures of them too. Here are some paintings of animals by Indian artists. Bear liked berries and juicy roots and fish and animals. Nothing seemed to be too large or too small to interest a hungry bear. He will even munch on a pine cone. These eagles are returning to their nests with food for the young. They build their nests high on the mountains or cliffs, away from danger, where they can look out over the whole countryside. They stand for courage, for power, and for nobility. Only the bravest warriors were allowed to wear the feathers of the eagle. This deer is grazing in a clearing in the forest. The mother deer has seen and heard the eagle and is trying to save her fawn, which she has hidden behind the bush. She rushed out into the open to make the eagle chase her and to forget all about the fawn. Animals look after their young ones just as people do. Everyone is fleeing from this dangerous prairie fire. The antelope, the wolves, and the Indians are all desperately trying to get away. Winter has come to the Navajo reservation. The family burros are being loaded with firewood. This picture is from way up in the North Country, in Alaska. Who is that sneaking up on the walruses? Do you see that polar bear in the water? The buffalo was a very important source for food and clothing for the Plains Indians. This picture shows the old-fashioned Navajo buffalo hunt. The hunter is riding his specially trained buffalo horse. A good way to get yourself a fine buffalo horse was to catch one. Here's a herd of wild horses. They are being stampeded and driven into a corral. After catching yourself a horse, the next stop is to break him in and make him gentle enough to ride. If an Indian got lost in a snowstorm, the Indian brave depends upon his trusty horse to help him find his way home. Indian ladies had their own horses too. The little papoose is enjoying a ride in something not so very different from the car seat your little baby brother or sister rides in. These Comanche Indian ladies on their gentle horses are picking wild fruit. Do you know what kind of fruit they're picking? I'll give you a hint. It starts with a P, and it is common right here in Oklahoma. Persimmons. See the baby? Boys had their own horses too. Here some boys are enjoying a lazy summer day, sleeping and playing games, while their horses wait patiently until it is time to go home. Of course, Indian boys and girls have pets, just as you do. This boy's teaching his dog a trick or two. The little girls love their baby lambs. The grandfather and the grandchildren are having some fun racing their donkeys. But it is not all play. There is the family flock to take care of, and the dog does his share. A couple of skunks. You know how careful you must be. Never, never tease a skunk. This horse, surprised at seeing a skunk, rears and is about to throw the rider. Another accident, but not so serious. A rear-end collision between a ram and an Indian clown, called a koshare. Indian artists like to paint animals not only as the eye sees them, but also with more imagination, as the mind sees them. Here is a hawk, seen as a beautiful design, made when the sun brings out the many colors in his feathers. This turkey is getting into big trouble. He is raiding the corn patch. The ghost or spirit horse from Indian and cowboy tales. Indians did not have horses until the Spaniards brought them into this country long, long time ago. But soon they became wonderful horsemen. These decorative ones are from old Navajo tales. There are also completely imaginary animals from other Indian stories, and these always delight the children. Here is storytelling picture. It represents an Indian telling a story. We know he is a Plains Indian, for the teepee is made of skins, and his costume is the type worn by the Plains Indians. This story I'm going to tell you, however, is not from the Plains Indian. It is from the desert country of New Mexico. Have you ever heard the story about Insect Man and Coyote? The Acoma Indians live high on a cliff that reaches straight up from the desert floor. But they go down to the sandy desert to plant their corn, their squashes, and other foods. Insect Man knew this, so he decided he would plant for himself a patch of squashes, so he could store them away for his winter food. Every day he would come down to see how his squashes were growing and to sing over them. Moki, 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 mo. Oi, moki, moki, mo. And he was there, too, to keep the weeds from choking the plants. One day, when looking them over very carefully, he was surprised to find one of the best and sweetest squashes had been stolen. Who could that thief be? Who has been stealing my squashes? He sat down to think what he could do, and he thought, and he thought, and he thought. Then he looked about until he found a tiny, sharp stick. He went up and down from one squash to another. He tasted each one to find the sweetest one in the whole patch. Then he made a hole in the squash, in the sweet squash, and he took his stick and he crawled inside. Now I will find out who has been stealing my squashes. About that time, Coyote Man came walking along. He stopped
looked and he smelled and he smelled each squash until he came to the sweetest one of all, the one in which Insect Man was hiding. Coyote gobbled it right down, Insect Man, stick and all. Now down inside Coyote, Insect Man was exploring. He was very dark in there, and he couldn't see anything. But he kept feeling his way and singing his little song. Moki, 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 mo. Moki, 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 mo. Coyote thought he heard someone singing. He looked all around, first one side, then other side. He couldn't see anyone, and he couldn't figure out where that singing was coming from. He began to run. He tried to run away from it. Every time he stopped, he heard that old singing going on. He didn't feel good, and he was scared. Now, Insect Man was very busy with the sharp stick. He was poking around, looking for something. Coyote was yelling, "Oh, what a stomachache I have!" And he was running in circles. He was in such great pain, he thought he was going to die. He couldn't get rid of that song either, just like an old spirit song. Insect Man was working hard now. He couldn't find what he was looking for. He touched something, but he was sure that was Coyote's liver. That was not what he wanted. Next, he found Coyote's lungs, because he could hear him breathing. That wasn't what he was looking for either. Here it is. This is his heart. This is what I want. So, Insect Man took his sharp stick, and he pushed, and he pushed, and he pushed with all his strength, and Coyote fell over dead. Then Insect Man crawled out of his dark prison inside Coyote's heart, and he came into the fresh air, and he spread his wings, and he went along home singing, "Moki, moki, moki, oh." After a time, old Coyote came alive again. At that time, coyotes had magic. But this did teach Coyote a lesson. He never did like squashes anymore. He wouldn't even steal squashes anymore. At least that is what the old ones say. Indians have many little stories like this. Perhaps you will read other little stories this summer, right here in your library.
Amahwiri, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Amahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Amahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Yamahwiri, Yahweh, Yamahwiri, Amahwiri,